Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941. 8 American battleships are moored in line, at anchor, on a quiet weekend. 117 minutes later, not one of them is fit to fight. 2,403 Americans are killed. This is that morning, minute by minute. 8 minutes past 8 in the morning. A bomb goes through the deck of the USS Arizona and into her forward magazine. 1,177 men die in about 90 seconds. Almost half the American dead of the entire attack, in one ship, in one instant.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives.
It begins 11 days earlier. 6 aircraft carriers slip out of Hitokappu Bay and turn east into the empty North Pacific. The one stretch of ocean nobody watches. 11 days of total radio silence. By dawn, they are 230 miles north of Oahu, and nobody in Hawaii knows they are there. At 6 in the morning, they turn into the wind and launch. 353 aircraft in 2 waves, the largest carrier strike the world has ever seen. 3 weapons, 3 targets. Torpedo bombers against Battleship Row, fitted with wooden fins to run in shallow water. Level bombers with armor-piercing shells for the decks a torpedo cannot reach, and dive bombers for the airfields so no American fighter ever gets off the ground. America gets 2 warnings. At 6:37, the destroyer Ward sights a midget submarine at the harbor entrance and sinks it. The first American shots of the Pacific War, an hour and 11 minutes before the bombs. At 7:02, the radar station on the North Shore picks up the first wave, 132 miles out. The report is dismissed. A flight of B-17s is due in from California that same morning. Both warnings die inside the chain of command. 7:48, Sunday morning. The Pacific Fleet is in harbor for the weekend and moored in pairs along the east side of Ford Island. Battleship Row. 8 battleships. Nobody is at battle stations. Most of the anti-aircraft ammunition is locked away, and the torpedo nets are open because the water here is too shallow for torpedoes. The Japanese have spent a year solving exactly that problem. 183 aircraft come in from the north. The first bombs fall on the seaplane ramps at Ford Island at 7:48, and within 3 minutes, Wheeler Field is burning. The American fighters are parked wingtip to wingtip in the open, lined up that way against sabotage, which makes them a single target from the air. 7:55. Torpedo bombers come in low over the water at Battleship Row. The shallow harbor problem was solved with a wooden fin, fitted to the torpedoes weeks before, so they would run in 40 feet of water instead of diving into the mud. West Virginia takes 7, Oklahoma takes 5 and begins to roll. California takes 2 and starts to settle. .806. An armor-piercing bomb, a converted battleship shell, goes into the Arizona near the forward turrets and detonates in the magazine. The explosion lifts the ship out of the water. 1,177 men are killed. More than 900 of them are still aboard her today. 4 minutes later, Oklahoma finishes rolling over with her masts in the harbor mud. At 8:40, in the middle of all of it, Nevada gets underway. 10 minutes later, the second wave arrives. 171 more aircraft, and not one torpedo bomber among them. Their job is to finish what the first wave opened, and by 9 o'clock, the airfields are burning from Iwa to Bellows. The second wave concentrates on Nevada, because a battleship sunk in the channel would seal Pearl Harbor shut for months. She is deliberately run aground at Hospital Point at 9:10, her guns still firing. The channel stays open. It is the one clear American decision of the morning. At 9:45, the last aircraft turns north. 1 hour and 57 minutes after the first bomb, it is over. Behind them, every battleship of the Pacific Fleet sunk, capsized, beached, or damaged. 2,403 Americans were killed and 1,178 wounded. Nearly half the dead were on one ship. The Americans lost 188 aircraft, most of them on the ground. The Japanese lost 29 in the air. The bill for 117 minutes. 4 battleships sunk or beached, 4 more damaged, 188 aircraft destroyed, 1,178 men wounded, 2,403 killed, and the price Japan paid for all of it. 29 aircraft, 129 men, and nothing bigger than a midget submarine. And 4.5 million barrels of fuel oil sat in tanks in the open, undefended. Not one bomb was aimed at them. Had they burned, the fleet would have had to fall back to California. The salvage begins within days. Divers work inside flooded hulls for months, patching torpedo holes in the dark, pumping the harbor back out of the ships it had filled. Here is what the map does not show. The 3 American aircraft carriers were at sea that morning, and none of them was touched. The fuel farm, 4.5 million barrels sitting in the open, was never attacked. The dry dock survived, and every battleship except Arizona and Oklahoma was raised, repaired, and sent back to war. Japan sank the fleet that had already stopped mattering and left the one that would beat them. Within 3 years, 6 of the 8 were raised, repaired, and back in the war. Japan sank a fleet that refused to stay sunk. Sources on screen. Ship positions are approximations of the published berth plan. If you know a berth I placed wrong, name it in the comments. Next on this channel, Midway,